response was. I'd like to explain what was going on with me in the writing of the email and to talk about the process used aligned with the board policy 2715. Okay, so here's the situation. This spring, my husband filed for re-election, and Luis Molina, husband of Graciela Molina, also filed to run for the same county supervisor seat. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's normal and proper for a person to support their spouse, but it created an awkward situation for me and perhaps for Graciela too, with the interactions that go on between the chancellor's staff and the trustees. I felt uncomfortable interacting with someone who was working to defeat my husband. I never faulted anyone for supporting their candidate, but I felt very ill at ease being put into this situation. My solution was to direct my questions or contacts with the Chancellor's Department through Jan Mathis. I felt that Jan was a very professional person, a very competent and helpful person, and so going through Jan would eliminate the awkwardness that I felt when working with Graciela during the election campaign. Well, I was totally caught off guard when I learned that Jan was helping to finance Luis Molina's campaign against my husband. I made it clear that she had every right to do so, but this now meant that 100% of the Chancellor's staff was opposing my husband and supporting Luis in hopes that he would defeat my husband. I guess, like NATO, I felt that attack on my husband was an attack on me too. Emotionally, this was very distressing and upsetting news that now there was no one in the Chancellor's office that I felt comfortable working with, even though I've said anyone has the right to support the candidate of their choice. But I am human, and I have feelings too, and I couldn't not take it personally. My emotions were working in high gear. In the heat of the campaign, I overreacted and sent Jan the email. I regret sending it. I didn't follow the good practice to wait before sending an emotional communication. I also can see by Jan's reaction that I didn't communicate clearly what my concerns were, and I'm sorry for that. I wanted only to point out my difficulties about work-related communications with Jan. I want to apologize to Jan because I had no intention of causing her any distress. I was not trying to intimidate her, and fortunately, she stated that she wasn't intimidated. I was not trying to reprimand her. I was trying to suggest a different way to support her candidate and not damage her work relationship with the trustee. Jan said that her support of Luis has nothing to do with me, that she was simply supporting a friend. But if you're rooting for your team, they can't win unless your opponent is defeated. With Jan publicly supporting Luis, I lost my go-to person in the Chancellor's office, and that's why I wrote the email. I need to talk about the procedure that was used to bring this resolution on the agenda tonight. The first I learned of a problem was when I was surprised in closed session by the board chair telling me that I was being accused by Jan Mathis of the things in her attached letter. Her letter was read to me and the entire board, but when I requested a copy of the document, I was refused. I only received a copy of her complaint after the resolution of sanction was sent to me last week. In that packet, I also found the email from YCCD board chair Abe Rojas, and I found it to be very interesting. Abe sent Jan an email on May 5, 2016, and told her, quote, "You know how I feel about this issue. I will support you 100% when we address as a board." This is before I even knew there was a problem and before Abe had heard anything from me. According to board procedures, the board chair, Abe, will first discuss the violation with the trustee to seek to reach a resolution. That's his responsibility. Now, Abe and I had that meeting on June 30th, as he reported. I thought I was attending a meeting with the purpose of seeking to reach a resolution, as is required by our policy. But Abe informed me that there would be no resolution because he wanted Jan to speak with the entire ad hoc committee and tell them what she wanted done. Of course, I did not know at the June 30th meeting that Abe had told Jan that he was supporting her 100%. His email didn't tell Jan that he was sorry this happened and he'd be sure to thoroughly examine the situation and work to bring forth a just solution. No, he made it clear that no matter what I might say, he was going to do what Jan wanted. This is why the board is considering this resolution today. There is clearly bias on the part of the board chair. He doesn't intend to be fair. With Abe as the leader of the ad hoc committee, I'm not surprised that charges have been brought against me. I contend it is very likely that the vice chair, Lynn Martin, is also biased because of her donation to Luis Molina, which is public information. Neither Abe nor Lynn would be allowed to serve if this were a jury trial. I've already stated that I should not have sent my email to Jan. I've already stated that I'm sorry that I did send the email, and I have apologized to Jan for sending it. I don't want to take as much meeting time as I would need at this board meeting to counter the many statements in the resolution. Some of them are false. It is clear that there is bias on the part of the ad hoc committee and that board procedure 2715 was not followed. I'm a believer that the punishment should fit the crime, but the action this board takes tonight needs to be commensurate with the severity of the offense. The proposed resolution is too drastic and over the top for my error, especially with the clear bias and failure to follow the policy.
Any comments from the board?
Since I have a little experience with censures, I might have a little different perspective, I guess, too. Let me start. I kind of scratch this. I started in court about 12 hours ago, and I kind of scratched this out while I was waiting. I guess to me the bottom line is there's a lot of references to this being a personal political action and not related to district business. But we're applying a board policy and procedure to that. And I think if you read the board policies and procedures, it refers to something relating to district business. So again, we're not talking about district business here. It was a personal political action, and we say here twice, not related to district business. So I guess just on a legal basis, I don't think the censure is appropriate. I'm glad to hear Ann say that the email was inappropriate, because I do think that's accurate. I understand the heat of a campaign, but regardless, it was still inappropriate. But again, I don't think it's censurable based on the law. Usually censures are for something I've seen, like related to district business, and when it's in the personnel realm, I had a case where somebody went in and released personnel files of somebody to somebody else in the public. So that's clearly raises to that level. And I had copied a resolution, or a procedure from a city that's pretty common. And it says, censure is a formal resolution reprimanding one of its members for specific conduct, generally a violation of law or policy where the violation of policy is considered to be a serious offense. Censure should not follow an occasional error in judgment. I think that's what we have here. Not that it was right. Again, I think it was wrong, and I'm glad to hear you agree and that you apologize. But I just don't think that a censure is appropriate in these circumstances. And I don't think, frankly, this is something, we're doing a chancellor search right now. I just don't think this response is appropriate at this time under these circumstances.
Well, Tom, I disagree. I think it's the letter, the email stands on its own, and I think any reasonable person that would read that letter would come to a conclusion. Overwhelmingly, people would come to the conclusion, not knowing the people involved, that it was inappropriate. If I would hate to see any of our employees subjected to an email like that, whether it was from a trustee or from a superior in a management role. I think there's intimidation involved, whether it's meant or whether it's just received. And so I think we need to send a message to our employees that this is behavior that we don't want to accept as being okay. We want to say that this is wrong, and we want to censure, and the definition of censure is to formally disagree, reprove the action that was taken. So those are my feelings on it. And while I'm speaking, so I don't have to speak anymore, I would want to say to Jan, the person involved, Jan, I'm very sorry that you had to receive that email. My interactions with you have always been, you've been extremely professional, ethical, and I want to commend your bravery and courage in bringing this up. Many people would be afraid to do that with somebody in a superior position to you. So I hope that we can be able to send a clear message. We wouldn't want to subject any of our employees to that.
Well said, Mike. I think, I agree. And I think in one of our closed sessions, I think it was you that said if the chancellor had written an email like that, it would be grounds for dismissal. That's how serious we thought it was at that time, so, well said. Vote.
And I just wanted to add also that the bullet points that are here, it says that we are bound to respect the office and in no way misuse the power inherent in the office. And I think we have to think twice before we send such an email to individuals that we are working with. It says maintain a collegial atmosphere in all activities. I've never known Jan to treat us in any other way. Use appropriate channels of communication. Perhaps if this concern by Anne had been taken to Abe or to the chancellor, perhaps this would have been avoided and we wouldn't have to be dealing with this situation at this point in time. Again, we need to communicate to others our feelings. If you felt that she was doing something wrong, then you should have approached other channels and dealt with it that way. And then the discussion could have been perhaps handled in a different way. But I, too, also support Jan, and I feel that she's a remarkable individual, and I have nothing but the best to say in regards to the way she has treated me and the way she handles her job. She's a wonderful, professional individual.
Well, let me be clear. Jan did nothing wrong. Anne did something inappropriate. I just think
Well, that's
when you
not
look
the
at
way.
this,
When you look at the email, it's not the way it was communicated. It was communicated as if she did something wrong.
but it wasn't about district business, and the comments, going through channels of communication, excuse me, wouldn't apply because it wasn't a district matter.
So
Just
it's all
saying.
right
I get
for that to take place. So it's all right for a
not all right.
trustee to go ahead and write up this type of an email,
It was-
even though it's not
It
business.
was inappropriate, should not have been done, but a censure is not the appropriate remedy for this situation.
Well, in your mind, what is appropriate?
Well, it was a personal political matter. I didn't think about it at the time, but, this race, a runoff was only avoided by less than 93 votes, I think it was. That should have been the context it was handled in because it was a political situation in the first place. It could have changed the outcome if it was handled differently.
Yeah, but
the
question is,
Going to somebody else and not us would have
Jan
been,
wants to speak. She raised her hand at me. Did you want to speak, Jan? Is that why you're raising your hand at me?
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand come
That's
up.
okay.
Yes, you may address the board.
No, you want to wait.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead and come on up, Jen.
Since I am clearly the one being talked about, I wasn't going to read this statement, and it's not easy for me to stand before all of you this evening. I made a few notes as Trustee DeMartini was speaking earlier. I find it very interesting that tonight she referred passionately about civility, communicating, respect to everyone. She apologizes tonight. This is first I have heard of it. There has been no communication from her since the day she sent the email on April 28th. I find it very interesting that this is the first I'm hearing that she was wrong or sending an apology. To clarify, I did not give any instructions to the board of what to do. And you can read that in your agenda. I simply asked them to support me. Since March of 2008, I began working for the district in the office of the chancellor as an executive assistant. Shortly after I began working, I was assigned the additional responsibility of recorder for the Board of Trustees. All during that time, I have done my best to do everything requested of me in a professional, respectful, ethical, and excellent manner as a representative of this district and of the Chancellor's office. Over the last 8 years, I have had opportunity to observe Trustee DeMartini act with other trustees, employees, and guests that have come to give us reports. For instance, the auditors, various employees, and trustees. I have seen on occasion what most reasonable persons would consider to be disrespectful, rude, unkind, and unprofessional behavior, and certainly less than representative of District Policy 2715 regarding standards of ethics and collegial behavior. It is not easy to stand before you, as I've said, but when I opened my work email and found what I took to be a reprimand, when she stated, "I would have preferred that you, and next time you may consider staying out of such controversial issues," my question would be, or what? If I don't do what you would have preferred I do, to me that is an abuse of power that was extremely upsetting to me. I do not report to the trustees, I report to Chancellor Smith. And I have to tell you, I had to get hold of myself because I became afraid. I found myself not wanting to have her come into the office again because I felt like I was going to be reprimanded for contacting the board. Once again, I did not give instruction to the board. I do not hold the position or the authority to dare give directives to the board. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love this district. I believe that I have done a good job as I have tried to do over and above what was expected of me. I hope this issue can be resolved so that I can work in a safe place in order to do my very best work. And I believe what has been stated in the agenda speaks for itself. I just wonder how many other people have had experiences like I have experienced, but have not come forward. Thank you.
Call the question.
Go ahead.
Let's call the question.
You call for the question?
Yeah.
Call for the vote? Okay, well, Mike, show of hand. We'll call for the vote.
Oh, you're going to poll? Yes, I
Vote in favor of the
vote
resolution.
in favor of the resolution.
Linda?
Yes.
Aye.
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 I think it's legally inappropriate, so no.
And Ann is not, cannot vote on this because of the, and so I'll vote in favor of the resolution. So the resolution for censorship of Trustee DeMartini goes on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vote
5-1.
and 1 no vote. Recorded? Thank you.
5-1.
Pardon?
5-1.
Oh, 5-1. I'm sorry.
5-1 and 1 abstention.
I counted that my math. Where's the math teacher? Okay, and the board comments. Do you have any board comments? Start with Trustee DeMartini.
GVM retreat, GVM meeting, board study session, gender review, policy and procedures committee till we ran out of time.
Thank you. Tom?
You know, there were some comments in closed session about the new chancellor picking their team. And that got me to thinking, we could theoretically have a new majority of the board in a few months. So I'm wondering if maybe the final chancellor selection should wait until after that election. Those are the people that are going to have to be working and directing this person for the next 4 years. Throw that out there for consideration.
I've heard that argument before, several times.
No report, said enough already.
Attended the agenda meeting, attended the policy and procedure, and sat in on a district deposition.
Mike?
Linda?
Oh, I'm Linda, I'm sorry. You gotta, I'm kind of
I'm
recuperating.
not bright enough for you today, Abe. You can't see me, Abe. I also was able to attend the GVM retreat, and I really appreciated Anne's invitation. I found it very interesting. I attended the summer sonata, the board study session, the ELD Welcome Center reception, which I found remarkable. I really appreciated the tour and discussion of what would be taking place at the reception center. Went to the agenda review, the ad hoc policy and procedures meeting. I also want to thank Dr. Smith for attending my first National Night Out event on my block. So I really appreciated her being there and being there to meet with some of the people that live in my particular area.
I was at several of them that night.
Yeah.
I, along with, I think, the rest of the board, attended the study session that was put on by John Black, who did a great job in terms of preparedness and safety in the review. Attended a wonderful summer sonata this year, and the agenda review on Monday.
Every board meeting at the end, as you see here, we ask everyone to tell us a little bit of what they did, attended activities.
Sure. Well, I can't say that I've attended any activities, but I'm about to. You may or may not know, I'm going to be attending the California Community College Trustee Workshop, which will be held in San Francisco this weekend. And if nothing else, I feel like I'll be more prepared to participate in a ready manner, and I'm happy about that. So, other than that, nothing to report.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here today. I had a little bout with my Medirs on Sunday, which creates a vertical problem, which I haven't had for about 8 years. So I'm here on a wing and a prayer. And I did attend the study session and also attended the summer sonata, and it was quite a gala. So the only problem was just I can understand the students at Modesto Junior College trying to find a parking place.
Yeah.
It was quite a challenge to find a parking place where the events was held downtown Modesto on 10th Street? 10th Street, I believe. So with that, the next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be held on Wednesday, September 14th, 2016. Closed session will begin at 3:30 p.m. and open session at 5:30 p.m. in the Manzanita Conference Room at Columbia College, 11600 Columbia College Drive, Sonora, California. I always wonder where that was. So with that, I never knew what the address was. So with that, we'll have adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending.
There is cookies and punch in the staff lounge.
A little bit out of the ordinary tonight.
Okay.
It was
Years I don't think we've ever had sunshine.